there was that question from Leah Warren about
yes, man.
should Tomlin win Coach of the Year? What was her little caveat?
If he wins
we make
out,
the playoffs,
or make the playoffs, or just wins out, because obviously he has 2 games left, and we can win those 2 without still making the playoffs, because obviously we are dependent upon the Jets and the Dolphins mostly, and everything is still looking promising with those based on the health and everything that's surrounding both of those games right now.
very doable.
Yeah, for us, we got to just take care of business. That's the big question mark. I hope it, because it reminds me of was it 19? 19 was the Duck season. Remember, we came down to the end and it was like,
Lost to the Jets.
and we lost to the Jets, but then remember that Ravens team.
Yep.
That was the other one, was the RG3 at the end, and it was like, bro, even though I forgot why it ended up not working out, but it was just like, man,
Titans won.
yeah,
We needed
but
Titans
it was like
to lose that game.
we still would have needed to beat the Ravens, and we didn't even do that. So I'm just like, don't let that be the case. Like, do what we're supposed to do. But in terms of Coach Tomlin, Coach of the Year, stuff like that, I would say no. Because unfortunately, when you talk Coach of the Year from an NFL standpoint, man, you want to really highlight the guys that are winning, and have a chance to get confetti and get Lombardies and stuff like that for that particular season. So when you think about other teams, Philadelphia, Sirianni, man, that's a dude that's going to be heavily considered for Coach of the Year. We talked about Buffalo, McDermott, heavily considered for Coach of the Year. It's going to be guys like that to me, whereas for Coach Tomlin, I still think that if he wins these final 2 games and finds a way to get this team in the playoffs specifically, I think that it's an amazing job. Very similar to how we talk about that 19 season with Duck and Mason and how he was able to get them to 8-8. Me personally, man, I would put this up there as one of his better coaching jobs, just because of all the adversity and everything that's transpired this season, on the heels of it being the first full year without Ben Roethlisberger and without Kevin Colbert. You think about where we were after 5 games and how many people had lost their mind in Pittsburgh. Think about that, Deke. Think about before we went into the bye week, where the majority of the fan base mind was at, where their thought process was. They were talking draft. They were talking tank. A lot of them are still tank. There. I know. But it's just funny every once in a while now when I see them talking about playoff scenarios. I'm like, oh, now y'all want to join that conversation. Nah, save it. But that's the thing, though. It's just kind of like, man, when I think of all of that type of stuff that he's had to endure, all of this, oh, man, it's going to be, they're picking in the top 5. I remember how many times earlier in the season I would see that pop up.
I think we had the number 1 pick
today,
at some point.
They would pick 1. If the season ended today, they would pick 2. If the season ended today, they would pick 5. And then it got to the point where it wasn't cool anymore because they started winning too much. And now, because they keep winning, now we are where we are, where we realistically, we won our 2 games. To act like the Jets and Dolphins can't lose their last 2, man, stop lying to yourself. Like, so it's a dope situation, but it really had to come from Coach Tomlin sticking to the course. Coach Tomlin not allowing himself to waver in his preparation, in his mode of operating. It was plenty of times where people were hollering about fire this, fire that, change this, change that. And if he would have done any of those things, would we be sitting where we are today and feeling the way that we feel today? No, we'll be talking about how this was a wasted season, how, man, we done tank. Hey, man, are we picking number 2? Or are we picking number 1 this year? Like, that would be the conversation. That's not a cool conversation. Trust me, you don't want to have that conversation, man. So, like I said, I do respect the heck out of what Coach Tomlin has done this season. And this is before we even know what happens these last 2 games. But if he does win out these last 2 games and makes it to the postseason, and who knows, even wins a playoff game, I still personally would not give him Coach of the Year, because I just think that when you think Coach of the Year, I'm looking at them dudes where I'm like, bro, I didn't expect this, or we expected it and you exceeded those expectations. People thought Philly was going to be good this year. I don't think anybody thought Philly was going to be like this year, though. And then to even see them without a Jalen Hurts, where they still can take a team to the wire, a Cowboys team who's definitely dope also with Gardner Minshew. To me, I look at that and I'm like, bro, that's tough to beat out right now. And you know who I want to win it. So, yeah.
Who?
Chill out, man. Don't do that. Don't you do that. Do not do that. Don't you. You asking way too. You supposed to just leave that statement like that and let it be a certain biasness in there, but a certain uncertainty of like how biased, which way is he leaning.
I'd like to think you're talking about Tomlin, but
hey, we'll just leave it alone. All right. I said what I said. The statement's there, and we could just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. You can't lose to the Jets, Patriots, and
Yeah,
Dolphins
bro.
like the way that we did and get Coach of the Year. And that wasn't even on him
It
because I'm with
wasn't.
you.
Yeah.
I'm with you with everything you said. I actually think his coaching job throughout the course of this whole season is really good with how we were going into the bye 2-6, terrible loss to the Eagles, and then to come out this second half.
Yeah.
Outside of those Mitch picks, I mean, we are in the playoffs right now. I'm just assuming if Pickett's in, we win that Ravens game. That's
We're gonna get a chance to
huge.
find out. That's the beauty too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a chance, absolutely.
Yeah, because either way, even if we do win that game, we
Yeah.
still gotta win out. It's
Mhm.
just that we would be in the driver's seat, owning our own
Correct.
destiny.
Versus where we're sitting right now, kind of. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm looking at these
Yeah.
standings. You're right. Eagles, Sirianni, Vikings. That coach that they got in too.
First year coach too, man.
I think Shanahan's definitely got a case.
What about
Trey Lance
what
going
about
down,
Dable?
Jimmy G going
what
down.
About Dable? Giants.
They kind of teetered off a little bit.
They have. What about down in Miami, McDaniels?
No, too much of a teeter off.
Too much teeter off. Okay.
Yeah, 8-7 now with how they started.
But how much of that has been related to the quarterback situation though? Which third time officially now?
I think McDaniels has done
Yeah.
good, but for Coach of the Year, comparing him to like
with you, though. I'm
Sirianni
with
or
you.
the
I'm
Vikings,
with
I don't even know the Vikings coach name. Is it O'Connell? Or O'Donnell or something like that?
it's what was it? It's not Kevin O'Connell. What?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or Shanahan. I put those three probably over McDaniel. Staley, nah. Harbaugh, no. Keeps getting lucky. Jaguars.
Yeah, O'Connell. Yeah.
Jaguars, Peterson's kind of got a similar case to Tomlin, how he turned things around in the second half. They're 7-8, though. I don't think you'd give it to Peterson. They are winning the division. Bills with McDermott, Chiefs Reed. He's always in the mix. They're probably not going to go out of their way to give it to him.
To me, man, I see Sirianni. If Buffalo could get the 1 seed, I think they might have a chance. I think McDermott could be in. He could talk about
Depending on how the Eagles finish, too.
Yeah, Eagles. If the Eagles drop something down the stretch, they've already obviously lost that one versus Dallas. If they somehow, some way mess it up and don't get the 1 seed on top of that, because Minnesota could still get that 1 seed. I think if that happens, that makes it a little bit interesting for O'Connell, obviously in Minnesota, or even McDermott in Buffalo in that sense.
The thing that's against the Vikings, I would say, as opposed to the Bills, is just all these close games by the Vikings where it feels a little lucky at times.
Yes.
Whereas the Bills, the games they've won pretty
win,
definitively.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say depending on how things finish. If Eagles go down, maybe McDermott has a case. I like the Shanahan case though.
Shanahan got a
rolling
case,
with
though, bro.
Purdy and not even missing a beat at
Seriously,
all.
dude.
11-4, just like
Seriously.
that. Yeah, with Tomlin, I like everything he's done this year. And going back to what you talked about, certain decisions that could be made and how he didn't waver. Both fronts with the coordinator and also the quarterback. Like when he made the Pickett decision, he was confident. Now, whether or not you agreed or disagreed,
Right. But he's stuck.
he was rolling with them.
And think about it. It was still rocky with some of the interceptions that took place. And people were hollering about, oh, should you switch back? Remember that conversation? He still was like, no, I've made this move. Like, I'm locked into this thing. Even when it might have even looked tempting. Oh, man, Mitch after the Tampa game. It's tempting. It's like, nah, I know what I want. I know what I'm doing, and I got this. And that's the thing. Like I said, man, a ton of respect for what he's done this season. But like I said, it's just hard to put that when we're almost, I don't want to call them moral victories, but in a sense, that feels more like intangible type stuff. Whereas when I'm looking at Sirianni, I'm like, bro, with this whole Eagles situation, or like you said, even with Shanahan out in San Fran, it's like, bro, you're dealing with this whole situation. You done went through 3 quarterbacks now. You're on your 3rd quarterback.
The guy you drafted in the 7th round, the last
you
pick
still
in
haven't
the
missed a
draft.
beat. And it's like you had to do damage control with Jimmy and his feelings because of how everything played out when you was like, yo, we're going to roll with Trey Lance, and then Lance gets hurt. And like that whole dynamic, man, it's crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then what was I going to say? Another thing with Tomlin, too. And you were talking about how expectations and a lot of times these awards and Coach of the Year stuff goes along with storylines and expectations. How much did you exceed expectations? With Tomlin, you know me. You know how we were even talking around the bot. Like, I expected this second half surge. I expected us to do better going back to week 1 heading into the season. I thought we were gonna.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget what my record 12-5 or something like that. I expected that, and honestly, I don't think I was too far off, given that we should have won the Jets, all those AFC East games, Jets, Patriots, and Dolphins. Should have won those. And nothing to do with Tomlin. That was just us literally not executing out there, letting Zach Wilson beat us, Akello getting Moss, Gunner muffin punts, like all that stuff. That's really not on Tomlin.
Yeah. You know, I agree with you, man.